Yeah, obviously coming off of our last game, we're really, really excited to get back on the court on Wednesday. Two very, very important days of practice. Matt Coleman sustained an injury to his heel in the game against Iowa State. We're hopeful that he's going to be able to go on Wednesday night. He will not practice today, but he's feeling better today than he did yesterday, which is a good sign. It's just a bruise. We were a little bit worried coming home because he was in a lot of pain, and he's a tough kid. But we're hopeful that he's going to be able to go on Wednesday. For us, coming off of Saturday's game, it's all about playing with maximum effort and staying connected. I thought the combination of a few things on Saturday, got us out of sorts in terms of those things. Took us away from who we need to be in terms of connectivity, and also just a core foundation of really playing as hard as you possibly can. There was definitely some frustration from our guys, and we certainly had some things that went against us, but you have to still be at your best even when adversity hits. So that's something we'll talk about today when we get together, and excited about getting back on the practice court with our guys.
Questions, please. With Matt, when exactly, I guess, did that foot issue happen? Because it looked like clearly he wasn't, fully ready to go.
It happened. I don't remember the exact time, but probably about 5 or so minutes left in the first half. Looking at it on tape, he went to the basket. He came down, and he just kind of jarred him. And Matt is, I would say, of all the guys that I've coached, he's in the top 3 or 4 in terms of physical toughness, in terms of just being able to play through getting hurt. Never complains. Just a guy that's really, really tough in those sorts of situations. And he wanted to keep playing, and you could probably see, he was kind of limping on it. And we went into halftime, it started hurting worse. And he was adamant about giving it a go to start the half, but he just didn't have it. He actually wanted to stay in when we took him out, but we just said, man, you come out and get rest because you can't move very well.
I hope we're getting probable to return Wednesday. You said hopeful.
Hopeful. I mean, I don't know what the probability is. I mean, there's still 48 plus hours until we play. Knowing that kid, I mean, he's gonna do everything he can to play. I think the best thing right now is for him to be able to continue to recover through some rest. I doubt that he won't practice today. I doubt that he'll do much of anything tomorrow. But like I said, we're hopeful on Wednesday that he'll be out there at 7 o'clock.
Any updates on Jericho?
Jericho is, right now on the shelf for a while. He is going to continue to be evaluated. He's seeing another doctor tomorrow. Obviously, for all of our guys, their long-term health is the most important, and we want to make sure that we, have the right plan moving forward. But we'll know a little bit more after that next doctor's appointment. But as of now, he will not be playing for the foreseeable future in terms of, the rest of the regular season and anything after that, unless we hear something different on this from this doctor tomorrow.
Okay, so if he can't play the rest of this season, is it possible that he could be done at Texas in terms of going pro or staying, or what are your thoughts on that?
I think Jericho's made amazing growth since he got here as a person. I think this season we've seen tremendous growth on the court. I think everyone would agree there's a bunch of room to continue getting better. He's the first to admit that, and he's excited about that. So anything's possible, Brian, but I don't think that's where his mind is at all. He's disappointed that he can't play. It's the most emotion I've ever seen from him when he found out, about where he is in terms of his playing status. He cares about his team. He cares about his teammates. He loves Texas. I think that he's excited about the future here.
What's his body language been like since he found out that he was injured? Has he kind of been a little bit down? I mean, I know he's a pretty quiet guy.
Yeah, Jericho's body language is Jericho's body language. I don't think he's ever really been the guy that walks in the room with, hey, look at me. But he's a prideful guy. He's a guy that was putting together a very good season, and he's disappointed that he's not able to help his team. He wants to help the bigs that are playing right now in any way that he can, but he's not. It's not like he's going to go out there and be the loudest guy, in the gym and practice when he's not playing. But he's, I don't think he's really feeling sorry for himself at all. He's following the protocol of rest right now and just trying to support his teammates.
Shaka, you said, I'll paraphrase, you said something to the effect Saturday after the game of that's not who you want to be as a team.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at Jericho's situation or Matt's situation and Jay's, when you kind of just look at what you got, what realistically the rest of the way that you kind of put the expectation on for what can you do?
That's a great question. I think first and foremost, our job as coaches and players is to immerse ourselves into the present moment and be the best that we can be over the course of these next 3 days. We play TCU on Wednesday night, and go after winning. And I think after that, then you quickly evaluate how that went and what do you do next. I've never really gone into a game with anything other than the frame of mind of, hey, we're going to win this game. And that's how I'll always be as a coach. Hopefully that's how our players will always be, regardless of who we have. Now, it does certainly create a much smaller margin for error. I don't know that anyone in this league, even completely healthy, has a really big margin for error. But it becomes, paper thin when those guys are out. And it just means that we have to be all that much better at the things that we can control. But can we win on Wednesday? Absolutely. And that's where our focus is going to be. Again, for our guys, maximum effort, staying connected, making sure that we do everything we can for everyone in our program to lose themselves in the fight. And then when that final buzzer sounds, if you do those things, you're going to feel pretty good about the result. And that's where our focus is.
Why do you think, you guys talk about those things so much, losing yourself and the effort and the aggressiveness, why do you think there wasn't that carryover in that situation on Saturday?
On Saturday? I think a few things, Dustin. I think our guys got frustrated. I think that, there's a confidence level that you tend to have when you are at full strength. And when you take a couple guys out of the equation, I think that may have impacted our guys to some extent. That's something that we, try to battle going into the game. And I thought our guys prepared. I mean, they were really, really excited Saturday morning. But when the game started, the way that the game started, the way they went inside, did a great job attacking. Young and Jacobson, really got out of the blocks really well. I think some of our guys got demoralized, a little frustrated, and our job as a team is to stay together, stay connected. We didn't do a good enough job of doing that. The other part about it is, when you go about your job as a basketball player, you have to have a clear mind for that. And I think sometimes when frustration or other emotions come into play, it can kind of cloud your mind to do your job. Some of the little things, and that definitely occurred and snowballed on us.
What kind of conversations have you had with Royce and Will and Kamaka about having to step up now that Jericho's out for the foreseeable future?
Well, I mean, those guys, it's interesting. As a basketball player, when you're not playing as much as you want to play, and when you don't have as big a role as you want to have, the natural tendency is, hey, what do I got to do? And we have those conversations with our guys that are maybe on the back end of our rotation or not even playing at all. And it's one thing to have the conversation, but then when the opportunity presents itself, either you grab hold of it or you don't. James Thomas is back taking classes. from the Final Four team. And he said something interesting to me this morning. He came by the office, and I didn't know this, but he said there was a couple injuries that kind of forced him into playing more early in his career. And he said, I just grabbed it and I never looked back. And I was kind of given more time because of that. So that's what you want. Now, sometimes guys are ready to do that, and sometimes they're not. And I think the last thing you want to do is judge anyone from one game. We'll see on Wednesday if those guys can be better, if they can step forward. We're definitely going to do everything we can as a coaching staff to support them in that and really simplify for them, hey, here are the 2-3 things we need you guys to go do. But with Jericho out, that's just a necessity for our team. Those guys can do it. They were recruited to play at this level. They have it in them, and now it's a matter of going and doing it.
I know you kind of want you guys to go on to each game with a clear mind, don't worry about what happened last time out. But do you sense, I guess, sort of with the season-long build-up of losses and injuries, and especially to a couple of starters, do you sense that it's wearing on guys? Are they sort of having a hard time really just being in the moment rather than sort of dwelling on maybe what has happened?
Well, those guys are human beings for sure. So I'd love to say, hey, they're machines, and that type of stuff does not impact them. And we've talked all year long, every team I've ever been a part of, just staying focused on what's on the inside. But sometimes that is easier said than done, particularly when you're 18, 19, 20 years old. Again, as coaches, our job is to help those guys with that and give them constant reminders on and off the court of what really matters and what's going to allow them to be successful. The reality is, if we're talking about anything long-term, the most important thing to us is our guys' growth. And obviously, we're evaluated on winning and losing, but if our guys can grow and develop in the moment and long-term, they'll feel good about what we were able to do with them and for them during their time here. But there's no question. I mean, nobody wants to lose. Nobody wants to play poorly. And when players go through that, especially with how much these guys put into the identity of basketball, let's face it, they all come to college at this level wanting to go to the NBA, and wanting to be in that top 1 or 2%. We know that that's not realistic for everybody, but that's the goal. And so when those things don't happen as readily or quickly as guys might think, now it's about what do you do next? How do you respond? And that's where our focus is right now.
It seems like you're still seeing the high level of buy-in and competitiveness and everything you want to see in practice. Mm-hmm. When something like Saturday happens, what's your reaction? I mean, you mentioned James Thomas. You've got some guys that have an opportunity right now that they didn't necessarily have a few weeks ago. What's your reaction like? Do I need to challenge these guys more? Does it kind of make you question, like, how are we doing this in practice and not doing it in games?
Well, of course. I mean, you always, as a coach, evaluate, well, what happened? And then there's certain factors that occur in games that are different. And, from a competitive standpoint, I thought we competed really, really well against Baylor. We didn't make shots. We didn't execute certain things well enough on offense. Texas Tech obviously was a tale of two halves. The Kansas game before that, I thought our guys had a ton of fight. We had a bad stretch in there in the second half. But this game was definitely, it felt different. And like I said, I think there was a few factors that kind of rolled into, our guys, getting on the wrong side of just, some negative feelings that took away from our connectivity and our ability to be the best version of us. But you go into the next game, and all you can do as a coach is make it very, very clear, this is who we got to be. You mentioned challenge them. Yeah, absolutely. We challenge them before every game. So it's more a matter of how you challenge them, doing it in the right way, finding the right button to push, and that's the key over these next few days.
I know you mentioned Jericho and Matt. Anything new on Jace? With
He has another follow-up appointment on his knee tomorrow, so hopefully, the diagnosis from there will be that he's progressing. I think his knee, at least outwardly, according to our trainer and according to Jace himself, has responded pretty well to rest from just a standpoint of swelling and how it feels. But he's a ways away from playing because he's not even really walking, smoothly on it. But he does look like he's moving better.
And with Jace, you guys did create some, good looks, especially from three in that game, and just, they weren't falling. Do you sense at all maybe guys are, putting maybe too much stress or pressure on themselves to make those shots, especially with Jace out? That's obviously a key part.
Yeah, I mean, that's been a formula for us, when we've been at our best is making a good number of three-point shots. That's one of the reasons that we've struggled of late. We did a lot of shooting in practice the couple days leading up to that game. But when you get in the game, it's about, being ready, shooting it with great discipline, and then probably most importantly, having a mentality of I'm going to let it fly and I'm willing to live with the results. Got some good looks that we will take again. And right now with who we have on the floor, we don't have Jace out there. And we are missing some other guys. So got to have confidence in the guys we have to shoot those shots.
Last one. I know confidence is such a delicate thing with a group that's gone through some of these close losses and Saturday and the injuries. That playing the underdog card here is close to impossible. But do you tell these guys, like, hey, you've got an opportunity to really surprise some people because they are counting you out because of these injuries?
For sure. Yeah, I think the biggest thing is when you have a collective drive on your team, whether it's from that or anything else, that becomes your why in terms of the stuff I was talking about, being connected, playing with maximum effort. Different teams have different whys, but I think for our guys, individually understanding that, hey, here's an opportunity for me, whether it's for a guy that hasn't played very much or whether it's a guy that has played but now is being asked to do a little bit more. And if it's because you got something to prove, because we have something to prove as a group, that's terrific, but it's got to be, something that binds you as a team. And that's when we do lose ourselves in competing, is when it becomes less about the individual and more about this right here. And, I'll always say that. That's when we're at our best, is when it becomes about Texas, and then individual players can play well and feel good about that on the back end of what they've done for the whole.